Welcome to Blooming in Brisbane, and on tonight's episode we're joined by Claire Bickle, Noel Burdette and Todd Marshall. Claire Bickle visits Michael Dent, who has a beautiful aloe garden. Todd Marshall pops by with some information on how to care for orchids. But first, let's go to Noel Burdette.
You know, with all the choices that we have in today's world for hedges and screening plants, it actually can be a little bit confusing. So it's always worthwhile asking your local horticulturist which ones are suitable for you, depending on the size of your block or the size of the garden that you need to fill. A little word of advice though, there is a difference between screening plants and hedging plants. Now, a hedging plant means that you have to go out there and prune it, such as in the case of many of the lily-pilly family. You need to prune it into shape. Moreas also come into that grouping as well. So the more pruning you give to those plants, the denser and the thicker they'll actually grow. Some plants, on the other hand, are really great screeners, and those ones will grow naturally into a nice even shape or a nice dense foliage, but require very little in the way of pruning. So I class those as screening plants, and there are lots of plants that come into that category as well. But we'll take a look at a few options here that you have so that you can think, yes, I can still get colour and I can still get some privacy and possibly some screening as well. Now I've got a couple of options here right in front of me, and one option that is often overlooked when it comes to using as a hedging or a screening plant is the fabulous old camellia. Now camellias can take some time to get to their desired height, but they really are very, very rewarding when it comes to a screen or a hedge. They can be quite dense. The only problem is when you buy them, they're a little on the thin side, so you will have to work at them. The best time to prune a camellia is in the spring when it's finished its flowering and it's starting to put on its new growth. Tip pruning at that time of the year is really important to do that with. So another plant, if you like flowers, and like me, if you like fragrance, is the old-fashioned yesterday, today and tomorrow. So the Brunsfelsia latiflora can actually make the most beautiful small hedge. And I'm talking about a hedge up to maybe 1.5 meters tall, and that's where it can look its best, and it's best maintained that way. And each spring it'll produce these delightful flowers of rich violet purple that fade to a lavender, then fade to white, hence the name yesterday, today and tomorrow. You get the 3 different colours on the same plant. But these make a fantastic hedge, and they are as tough as old boots, because once they're in the ground and established, they're very hard to kill. Another plant that has long been forgotten as a plant in a garden is the old Calliandra. I love Calliandras because they actually provide these beautiful bright red pom-pom flowers that the birds just simply adore. Now you'll never find a nice thick Calliandra for sale anywhere. They're always thin and a little bit on the skimpy side, but you need to be strong. You go in there and prune it very, very hard, and it actually reacts very quickly, especially during the warmer months of the year. Calliandras are trouble-free, they're disease-free, pests and insect problems are not even heard of when it comes to these plants. But these make attractive hedges as well. Again, up to about 2 meters for a Calliandra. If you're looking at something a little bit taller, and maybe you like something a little bit more lusher or something that looks a little bit more tropical, then why not consider something like the good old tiger grass. I love tiger grass. It's a great alternative to a clipped hedge because there's no pruning involved whatsoever. Thick, lush, large foliage which grows up to about 3.5 meters tall, and does that very quickly, may I say, and will give you a delightful background and great for sort of blocking out unsightly fences or just providing a great soft privacy screen around a pool or things like that. If around a pool is what you're looking for and you've got a bit of extra space, certainly look for some of the dwarf bamboos. You know, the tiger grass and the dwarf bamboo, which is Malay dwarf, this will get to about 3 meters also. But one of the beauties of plants in this family is that within a span of about 2 to 3 years, you'll get your full desired effect. And that's a pretty hard call when it comes to choosing plants for screening, especially when it comes to shrubs, because some of those will take up to 5 years to really provide you with the full effect that you're after. But in a shorter period of time, 2 to 3 years, the bamboo is fantastic. So this is a dwarf Malay clumping bamboo. It's non-invasive. invasive, which means it won't run around in the garden and send off suckers everywhere. It loves to be pruned as well, and it grows very, very rapidly all through the warmer months. Now, we've talked a bit about the sun-loving plants, but what about something in the shade? If you need something for the shade, because sometimes we need privacy for them too, why not consider something like the lady palm or the rafus palm? This is an amazing clumping palm that gets to about 3 or 3.5 meters if conditions are right, in full and utter shade. It'll also grow in large pots, but loves to grow in the ground. This is an amazing plant that doesn't require the pruning as well, and very little affected by insects or diseases, so which makes it even more appealing for many of us to grow. But if you are wanting more greenery for the outside in your garden along fence lines and pathways or driveways, you can certainly go for some of the other options. Michelia figo down here, for instance, is one of the nicest evergreen fragrant flowering shrubs that you can have in your garden. It has been traditionally used for a long time now as a hedging plant, but look at it as a screen or a hedge up to about 1.8 meters tall. That's where it will excel. Sometimes if they're left to grow a bit taller, they get a bit woody at the base, and a bit open. Another really nice one that's come onto the market recently for a lower hedge, and if you happen to live in a seaside area or on a coastal area, look for something like the Metrosideros little Dougal. It's an amazing plant. Metrosideros have the most incredible tolerance for strong windy conditions, salt spray, and very hot dry conditions as well. They are an amazing plant, and because of their big red flowers, I should say, they are highly attractive to birds, and they provide a nice big rich nectar source for many of our native bees. Now, I mentioned lily pillies just that little bit earlier, and there are some new ones on the market. This one here is called Big Red, and it's quite outstanding with its rich, deep maroon foliage and nice glossy leaves. It is a really pretty one to have in the garden. It tends to have a nice thick columnar effect, but I mean, to get the best out of your lily pillies, they do like to have a good prune. Another one over here, which is called Cascade. It's called that for an obvious reason. Its new growth actually does cascade in its growth, and it's bright pink, and this is followed each spring by lovely pendulous hot pink flowers that again the birds really relish. This is a lovely plant that'll get to approximately 3.5, possibly even 4 meters if conditions are right, but just a lovely plant to have. It's a nice change to allow plants to grow a little bit softer as well. So constant pruning on this one is not that necessary. It's more about allowing the new growth to occur, and then every 6 months or so give it a very light tip prune just to sort of bring it back into shape. There are so many beautiful plants that we can use for hedges and screens. We don't have to stick to the same old. You can actually open up the doors to an amazing plethora of plant material that you can use in your garden. You can create fragrance and colour, privacy, and also a bountiful array of lushness in your garden as well. So I hope you can find the right plant that's suitable for your garden.